With a new war comes new technology. Our top inventors have made a portable gun with a caliber so large it could penetrate the armor of these beasts of steel. In theory. In practice, it did little more than deter the armored cars built in the earlier stages of the war. The upgraded rocket-propelled grenades fulfilled that purpose, shredding armor much better. And now, to the war! It starts off just like any other. Colonials to the south, and Wardens to the north, just like what the law says. In the first weeks of the war, we see the rapid mobilization of the Wardens. Faranac coast becomes a stalemate on the bridges of the River Mersey and the Winged Walk. The same could not be said in the Deadlands and Ender Shore. The Colonials were pushed away in both fronts, as the Wardens penetrate into Umbral Wildwood and southern Faranac. But for the Wardens, things took a turn for the worse as the Colonials punch a hole into Deadlands and take Sun's Hollow, while simultaneously pushing the Wardens out of Umbral. The Colonials then proceeded to take both the Liberation Point and Salt Farms with little opposition. Bryan Glen, however, proved to be a hard-fought battle. After it was taken, the Wardens shelled it again, and again, and again, and again. This continued on for several days. Within just 2 weeks, the Colonials managed to turn the tides. Now it was their turn to push the Wardens into their home regions, and then some. However, taking Callahan's Passage proved to be a more difficult task, as it had both natural defenses in its mountains and man-made defenses in the form of a 2-month building operation by the 11th French Regiment, slowing down their advance. At this point, colonial veterans were celebrating their impending victory, but that was cut short as in a stunning move, the Wardens took back control of their home regions, and were marching 3 steps forward, and 1 step back, I suppose. During this time, I was able to recover a journal entry by a colonial warrant officer by the name of Big Bang Man, detailing a 5-day last stand on the bridge of the River Mersey. Alongside were Officer Cadet Wailsworth and Second Lieutenant Detestable, firing the howitzers day and night to stem the Warden waves. From the information I've gathered, it seems that Wailsworth was able to retreat to a more secure location afterwards. He was promoted to Second Lieutenant by the end of the war. Big Bang Man and Detestable were posthumously awarded the Medal of Valor. But by this time, the colonial war machine was simply outproducing the Wardens, thanks to dedicated logistics personnel like Vernichter, who mined and refined over 200,000 units of sulfur over the course of the war. The Wardens were being pushed back from the middle regions once again. One particularly devastating scene was the month-long siege of Brackish Point. By this point, the Colonials had retaken everything from Woodbine to Southbrook Channel, and were pushing over the bridge. For the next 12 days, there was a bloody back and forth for the North Star crossroads leading to the town itself, which was relatively unguarded. But those 12 days bought enough time for the Wardens to fortify it with 4 defensive lines, and for the next 2 weeks, wave after wave, attack and counterattack. Thousands of men had died, and an estimated 50 tanks were left burning husks. It was taken on day 357. A day later, 2 Watha and Light's End were taken as well. The day after that, it was Christmas Day, but there was no truce to be found, no trenchmas spirit, only a failed breakout attempt by the Warden Axis in the Deadlands. On New Year's, Vulpan Watch itself was taken, effectively sealing off the middle regions. 2 weeks into the new year, Mooring County was taken, and 2 weeks later, it was back in Warden hands. On day 412, however, the key was taken, giving the Colonials a foothold in Callahan's Passage. The difference in men and material was very much seen, as the Wardens lost the town almost every day. Ogmaron was the last town to be occupied on day 430, marking the official end of the war. To celebrate, the Colonials killed each other, fed some ducks, and went home the next day. And now to some forgotten fronts of the war. First off, we have Westgate in the Heartlands, where some 679 Wardens and 1,138 Colonials met their end. The most probable time frame these casualties occurred were at the start of the war, when the Wardens had control of Faranac Coast and the Deadlands. Second one was the failed Warden incursion into Umbral Wildwood during their comeback. By this point they had taken most of Endless Shore and the northern Faranac region. Multiple attempts were made to secure the towns of the Stray and the Foundry, but they were either repulsed or taken back within a day. Between days 309 and 316 there were an estimated 115 casualties. After the last of these incursions, the Colonials counterattacked, taking back the towns of Woodbine, The Well, and Saltbrook Channel in Endless Shore. Lastly, we have a Colonial attempt to take the Cut in Murray County at the last stage of the war. The fully stocked Colonial veteran squad of 6 clashed with a single tank manned by members of the German coalition. Here is an account from one such member, 2nd Lieutenant Spacer.
The Cut defense started with me being notified of an incursion into the region. I hastily requested reinforcements to help deal with the enemy. Unfortunately, we couldn't spare any men from the weathered front where the main Colonial army was. So I gathered up a small squad of volunteers enough for a single tank and moved out. The enemy had been situated at the crossroads leading to the Cut, but they were moving closer. Lucky us, the defenses held out long enough for us to get there, and then we clashed with 4 of them. But the next day our situation was already dire. We desperately needed fuel and ammunition for the tank, and if they had managed to destroy it. So, just as we were firing our last shells, a lance corporal from the logistics division saved us. He came with ammunition, and he kept doing that over the entire course of the conflict, and then he also started bringing reserve tanks and half-tracks. The conflict developed into a cat-and-mouse game. So, the way it went was kind of like 1 hour we ambushed them, and in the next hour they were behind us with RPGs, and we may have lost a tank or 2. But at the end of the day, we got our infantry support and managed to then push them out in a day. But the infantry support we got was reallocated from a different front, so they were all pretty tired. Hence, I made the decision to retreat back to the Cut without cleaning up the hostile emplacements that were still there, but inactive.
In conclusion, after a long and hard-fought war producing more than 340,000 casualties, the Colonials have prevailed, making the tally 4-4, meaning next war will be the tiebreaker. Who will win and break the... It was Warden's Day. Steamrolled it. Join us in War number 10, where a brand new naval vehicle may be introduced. This has been the Great War of 8, a recap of the longest war in Foxhole history by far. Documents are available in the description.